All right, we are going to be in James chapter 1 today. James chapter 1. We just finished up a series here, and we're actually going to talk today. We're gonna have a reality check. So today is Reality Check Sunday, and it's hopefully something we can take with us for the rest of our week, so that we can have that time to really take a look at who we are and where we are. I was doing some research on reality TV shows because right now that's the rage, and it's been the rage for a while. So I was like, okay, like what's the first, reality TV show? And I thought it would be like Survivor or one of those kind of things. And the reality of reality TV shows is they actually started in the 1940s, which blew my mind. One of the ones that's the most famous from that time frame was Candid Camera. Some of you guys may remember that as you're growing up, or may have seen reruns and things like that. And the whole idea behind it was they put a camera out and they tried to prank people and see the reactions to it. And so, through time, they've done the same thing, they've just given it different names, and yet reality TV has exploded. In fact, it's exploded to the point that they did a study on all teenagers, and they found out that 1 in every 7 teenagers, the goal that they have is to become famous on a reality TV show. 1 out of every 7, that is their hope. And so if you go to them and you sit down with 1 out of every 7, you're like, hey, so when you get done with school, what do you want to do with your life? And they just kind of look at you and you go, so do you want to go to college? Yeah, I don't really think I'm a college guy. I'm a college gal. It's just not really for me. Okay, well, what about a trade school? I don't know if there's a trade, anything that I'm really interested in. Well, what are you interested in? I like video games. I like playing Fortnite. I like playing, Call of Duty. Yeah, there's probably not that. Well, what about the military? I'm definitely not a military guy because it'd make me cut my hair, and I'm just not into that. So then you have to have some kind of a plan, something. You know what? I think I'd like to be on a reality TV show. And this is 1 out of every 7 kids. So which one? I don't know. There's so many to choose from. But here's something to remember about reality TV shows. Even though we'll watch a reality TV show week after week to see who the final person is, one of the shows that Deanna and I watched for many years was called Biggest Loser. I don't even know if it's still on anymore, but we watched it for however many seasons. And you see these people, and it transforms their lives, and how big they are and how small they are, and those other kind of things. And you find out later that some of the things they did, they shouldn't have been doing. But like every week, as it's going down, and say it starts with 15, and it goes to 14, and then down to 10, or whatever it might be, you find yourself in a reality show either rooting for people or rooting against them. And you hope that that guy or that girl that just rubs you wrong, that this is the week that they get booted off or they get kicked off. And you also hope that the one that you're rooting for, please be the one to win. I mean, we actually find ourselves doing it. And we'll even within the family, I like that one. I can't stand that one. I like that one. I can't stand that one. And why don't you like them? How can you not like them? And why do you dislike them? We'll go back and forth on that as to which ones. And so we'll watch the very end because we're all engaged within that reality TV show. But here's the other thing. We all love when people completely screw up, right? We love the absolute train wrecks. American Idol was a really famous reality show for a while, and there was an Asian guy that was on there, and he was the worst singer in the history of the planet. But you had to watch it. And you had to watch to think, okay, is he going to get better? If he took voice lessons, could anything have to be in the positive? He actually released a Christmas album. It was one of the highest Christmas albums grossing the year that he put the thing out. He became this multi-millionaire. And he was terrible. And people had to watch. And reality is, that's most of what happens in life. We see that negative side, and we've got to watch it. And we know how terrible they are, and we've got to go and see it. And we have got to have that reality check. But some young people, they want to be that person. They don't want to be the person that's going to mess up. They want to be the person that's going to succeed. But the reality of it is, a lot more are going to mess up. There's one winner at the end of a reality TV show. But if you go to watch something like the auditions for the music things and things like that, the ones that are really bad, there's a couple things that happen. You say to yourself, I could have screwed that up. I could be that bad. It's possible that I could do that. And then as a parent, because you kind of have a transition, you go, dear God, please let none of my kids ever be that guy or gal. When you have grandkids, it's the same thing. Please just don't go out and have anything go viral, because reality is that is part of what can happen. Complete success complete failure, and lots of people in between. And that's our faith. That's our walk. There's times when we are so on fire and everything's going so well, and if I sat down and said, how are things going? Man, my prayer life is good. My devotion life is good. I'm spending time with my family. I'm talking to them about God. They have my kids' friends are coming over. We're sitting down having discussions about it. I'm being a great example before them. You know, they see myself and my spouse and how we interact with one another. The grandparents are great. Our relationship is good with the in-laws. Financially, we're doing fine, and everything couldn't be better right now. Sadly, that's rare. Because the other side is, how are you doing in your faith walk? Well, I know I should give this to God, but I keep turning to myself. I know I shouldn't be anxious, but I keep feeling anxiety. I know I shouldn't worry and doubt. Man, do I worry and doubt. I know I should give these big purchases to God, but I just go and run them up my credit card whenever I get a chance. I know I should be kind to my words. I know I shouldn't yell. And the reality is, I yell. And I'm not very kind to my words at times. And so that, many times, is a reality of our walk of faith. And so we'd love to get a picture of video of that time that we were so on fire. But if we were to look at ourselves and judge ourselves, many times it's the exact opposite. We're just one screw up and one train wreck and one falling off the cliff after another. But then there's also, and this is for many of us, we're in between those two. I started making a little bit better decisions for the most part, but instead of making 10 bad decisions, I only make 5. And there was times when there was 10 good things that I wanted to do, or 10 things that would focus on God, and I'm doing 2 or 3 of them. So it's not terrible, it's not great, it's just kind of in the middle. And I'd like to get better, but I'm not really doing anything about it. I'm not really taking the steps that are necessary. James today that we are talking about is going to tell you over this week and next week, he's going to tell you it's enough to just stop sitting there. Quit being on the sidelines. It's time to do. It's time to live. It's time to be a person, a believer before others because they aren't seeing God. Non-believers are not seeing God anywhere else except through us. So it's reality check time. If your hope is that you're going to be completely successful, I don't know that's going to happen. But if your fear is that it's going to be a complete failure, I can guarantee that will not happen. And I'll show you why here in just a little bit. But for the rest of us, we're kind of right there in the middle. And our hope is we want to go further. We want to step up and do. But too many times we just kind of sit back and do nothing. James is the half-brother of Jesus. And for his entire life, and I guess I really don't know this is how I picture it, but I see James as, Jesus is obviously the oldest brother, and there's James, and every time something comes up that he screws up, there's mom and dad going, why couldn't you be more like your brother? Well, he's perfect now, isn't he? Yes, he is. And so for his whole life, he was the one who shot and killed the squirrel. And then Jesus rose from the dead. Right? So, that was going to be dinner, but we're all vegetarians now, so we're going to move on. And every time it was, hey, you got to be more like your brother. Now, I don't know that. Once again, that's how I picture it. But I do know this. James did not believe. Because as a sibling, many times we don't want to admit that maybe our brother or sister might have a leg up on us, or might be better than us, or might, be looked at better, whatever it might be. And so many times we don't give them the honor or the props that they deserve, and many times it's because where they are succeeding is someplace that we can't succeed. And what you have to know today is, right where you sit, for the very struggles that you have, for what people remind you of, you should have acted this way, you should have done this, and you should have said this. Many times when people do that to us, it's because what they see in you is something they wish they had. And the love that you share is something that is missing in their lives. So they're going to find a way to attack you in the easiest way possible. And if you're a believer, and you believe living your faith is important, that's the place that they're going to start. And many of us, once it starts, we completely stop, and we give up. James is telling you this today. Don't stop. Do not quit. And he's going to back it up, because he can say to you, listen, I've been where you're at. I've seen the struggles. I know what it's like to be put down. I know what it's like to be compared to others. I understand all that. James did not get who Jesus was until every other believer did. Every other disciple. Whether it was Peter or John or James or any one of them, none of them truly understood until they saw the resurrected Jesus. And then James realized, oh my goodness, I've been living with God's Son my entire life. And I've been putting him down and criticizing him and making fun of him and saying, hey, why don't you go do this? And why don't you go do that? And why don't you go show him how powerful you are? And at some point, sometime, he's got to stop and go, I'm going to have to answer to God for all this. But instead, he stopped long enough to say, it's my job to trust and believe. And so he is actually the head of the church in Jerusalem. And so everyone's run off. They're all going off in different areas. We talked about Stephen a couple weeks ago. And literally, this is how James starts this. This is a letter that he's writing. Starting in verse 1, it says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember that when you read the epistles in the New Testament, that they are letters that are being written to someone. So it's just like any kind of letter you have, you always start with a greeting. So for me, I get a lot of Dear John letters. Dear John. And then we go into the letter, right? And at the end, love you, great hearing from you, best regards, whatever it might be, and then, or sincerely, boom, whoever signed the letter. So this is a letter that's being written. So he starts off, he says, James, a servant of God, of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. So he's writing this to all the people that scattered, and it stops and makes you go, why is it that they're scattered? And the reason they're scattered is because there's a gentleman by the name of Stephen, that we talked about, who literally was stoned outside the city gates because of his belief. He was murdered. He was killed because he believed that God had sent his Messiah, and he knew who his Messiah was. And he was so close to them that he even closed his life with the same kind of words that Jesus had. So he was that in tune within his spirit. It says, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. Greetings. So it's just this word that just says, hey, we're going to have a conversation here. I just wrote this stuff down, and I want you to listen to what I have to say. I want you to listen to the guy that grew up with the person that we are worshiping. I want you to listen to the guy that lived with him, and he was perfect. And I can't find anything wrong with him. And when he died, there's part of me that's kind of like finding him. I can kind of get out from underneath the shadow. And then 3 days later, when he came back, I was like, oh my goodness, what have I been missing? And that's our faith walk. Oh my goodness, what have I been missing? Reality check time. It's reality check time. What have you been missing? What are you missing every time God stops you long enough to say, would you just give me a chance? Would you just listen for my voice? Would you just rest in my spirit? Would you just receive the peace and the love that I offer you? Would you just take those things and then take it out with you wherever you go? That's a pretty good offer. You can have hope. You can have peace. You can have self-control. You can have patience. You can have all those things if you'll just turn to me. So James says, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials. Let's stop here for a second. Not if you face trials. Not there might be a day that you'll face trials. Whenever you face trials. We are all going to face trials in this life. And it's not the trials that we face, it's our reaction to them. Now, before some of you say, oh, but you don't know how I react, and you haven't lived my life, and man, John, you just don't know what's going on. I get it. We're all there. But let's use James as an example. How he acted for his entire life, and he lived with the risen Savior. So I think he's a pretty good source as far as dealing with this from experience for you and for me. He says, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Now, some of your verses, it may say endurance, but I believe that the word perseverance is a better interpretation here. Here's why. And both these words come from the same Greek term. Endurance means I can run for a long time. Endurance means I can go after something for a long, long time. Perseverance means I made it to the end. So some of you are runners, and you're like, I'm going to train for a 5K. And so you have to run a certain miles until you can go and run that 5K. But the whole thing at the end of it is that you want to get done so that you get the medal or you get the shirt or whatever it is that they might give. And then you train for a 10K. And so you have to train a little bit further. You have to build your endurance, but you're not just building your endurance so that you can run. You're building your endurance so that you can finish. And there's even people that are out there that are crazy enough to go all the way to half marathons and marathons. And it's the training that you put in to prepare to build your endurance, but the focus is on the perseverance. And it's finishing. And the same idea James is sharing here, this is what comes with our faith. So, it says, the perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given unto him. So if you are struggling right now and you're like, I don't know what the next step is. I'm not sure where I should go. Bad things are happening and I don't know the next step. And I don't know the next answer. God is saying this to you and to me. Stop long enough and ask for my wisdom. But too many of us are busy freaking out. Too many of us are out raising our voices. Too many of us are just out being unkind. Too many of us don't even consider putting ourselves in the shoes of the other person. It's going to be my way, this is how it's going to be, here's my timeline, and you're going to deal with it. And we don't realize all the other people that are watching, and how many people we've stomped along the way, and how many people we've hurt in the process. And this is very prevalent when it comes to the church of today. We push so many people away because how we act many times, even within our walls, within our different ministries. I came here for healing. I came here for hope. I came here because I want to know God can help me through all these things. And now I find out He promises it. And then all of a sudden I see two people yelling at each other, two people cussing each other out, two people throwing stuff, three people going back and forth. People point their fingers and put people down. It's like, that's not what I'm here for. I thought I came to a place of healing. I'm just going to go back to the things that I've always done. And James says, no. It's a long race. You have to persevere. And when you need something, you stop long enough and ask God. Because even when the bad things happen, it can still work out to your benefit. How many times did we have a time frame where we're like, this is going to happen this day, and this week, and this month, and this year? And then we get to the end of that year and we realize, that didn't happen this week, it didn't happen this month, and it sure didn't happen this year. And come on, God, I had a plan and a schedule. And so we go to the next one. We go, there's my plan for this day, and this week, and this month, and this year, and it's still going to happen. We have so many plans, and then when God takes us elsewhere, we don't stop long enough to recognize Him and go, all right, God, what is it you're doing here? Because obviously you're trying to help me to mature and to persevere. And then my endurance is building. Because I keep running, and I keep getting stronger, and I keep running, and I keep getting stronger, but I am just not seeing the finish line. The Bible tells us it's in due time, and we do not know when or where that finish line will be. But many times when we hit those mile markers, we can see God in it. James continues, and he says this, but when he asks, he must believe and not doubt. Because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. Listen to this again. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt. Because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all that he does. God wants you to know this. You are not in this life alone. If you're a husband or wife right now and struggle within your marriage, God did not intend for you to do it alone. He knew that you two would come together, but He offered that strand of 3 cords to be with you and to take those steps wherever you go. You're never intended to go alone into that. If you're just having a child for the first time, and you're like, yeah, when I left the hospital, they didn't give me a manual. And so I have no idea what the next step is. There's lots of us that have been there. And lots of us that have really good advice. And lots of us that have really bad advice. But God's got the best advice at all. I know this. He tells us to redeem the time. And if you have a little one that you're holding that's still in diapers, enjoy it, because it goes like that. And you do everything you can to enjoy every single moment. And when it gets to the teenage years, don't you dare give up. It's mom and dad. The person they need the most is grandma and grandpa. The person they need the most is brother or sister that's alongside of them, because they need lifted up and they need encouraged. And they need to know that there's a believer out there that can offer that same hope. And so James is saying this, but when he asks, when you and I ask, he must believe and not doubt. You cannot go through this life believing you are alone, because you will turn to yourself in the times that don't even seem difficult at the moment, but you'll step back later and go, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? Yesterday, Nathan's team had a doubleheader, and Becca's basketball team also had an AAU game. And so the way it was working, they moved the doubleheader earlier, and so in my mind, this is perfect, because they were talking about having a 9:30 game, and then Becca's basketball team played at like 2 o'clock or something, like 2:45. So I'm like, okay, the rain's coming in, and they'll rain out the second game, so I can go to Nathan's game, have the game rained out, and go to Becca's game, and I'll coach. Well, of course, the first game went 3 hours and 10 minutes. So at 12:40, they're just finishing up. There's no way they're going to get that second game in. And when you're parents, sometimes one's at a field and one of them's at, one's at a game, whatever it might be, and that's just what you do. And so there we were at this game, and so Dan and Becca had to go to the basketball game, and I'm staying at the baseball game. So I'm not the head coach of Becca's team, I'm the assistant. And so here we're at this game, we're going through, and I'm telling you, the game started, and it was dull. I mean, it was like, man, this is like majorly boring. Like the first game was like really exciting, all these great things going on, and I look up about halfway through the game, and it's 1-1, and there's 2 hits in the whole game. And so part of me's like, oh my goodness, I could be at Becca's game, but I know that the right thing to do is to be here, because even earlier in that first game, Nathan had fouled the ball off his foot, and some of you say, well, it's because he has big feet, and that's partially true, but it hurt, and if that happens, someone's got to take him, to Children's or wherever to get an x-ray. Thankfully, nothing happened from it, and he still has big feet, but now he's got a mark on it. No big deal. So we're in the second game. We get to the point where it's the 5th inning, it's still 1-1, and there's still 2 hits in the game. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you've got to be kidding me. And so it started to rain. I looked at the radar, because dads are also weathermen, and here what had happened was the rain that was supposed to come earlier in the day from the day before literally changed and pushed back 2 or 3 hours. And so there I am, and I'm looking at this weather forecast, and I see the rain coming in, and I'm like, this game's going to be raining out anyway. So now I'm mad. Like, you don't doggone it. The rain was supposed to be here. I looked at the forecast at noon, and the email said, we're hoping to get this 1 game in. And the rain's coming at noon, and now they pushed it back to 2 or 3, and Becca's game's at 2:45, and it's 45 minutes to an hour away, and I stayed here, and this game's going to get rained out, and it's going to be a 1-1 tie. Yippee. I was so ticked, you don't even know. Well, they end up getting, the first guy gets up and gets a double, so he's on second base, and then Nathan comes up, and the pitch goes to the backstop. This kid goes to third, and they break in the infield, and Nathan reaches out and smacks one up the middle. Guy dives, doesn't get it. It's a hit. They score the run. Now they're up 2-1. I'm like, well, at least something good happened, right? I look over, and they're coming out for this is the top of the last inning. I just want you all to understand here real quick. I'm pastor, but I'm a person too. Okay? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. All right? If we took all the sinners out of the church, none of us would be in the church. You got it? All right. So here we are, bottom of the 7th inning, and I look over, and my son Nathan's coming onto the field, which I think he's going to go to third. He goes onto the pitcher's mound, and I haven't seen him warm up. And so there's a whole progression, because he's a bigger kid. Those of you know, he's about 6'3", 215 pounds, and he has got to get warmed up. He warmed up at the end of the first game, but I know Nathan's mindset. He's a teenager. Well, I warmed up 3 hours ago, so I should be good now. That's not how it works with pitchers. Okay, we raise pitchers in our family. That's not how it works. So he has to go through this whole band progression, get himself ready to be good to go. So he goes off the mound, and the first thing he does, he throws a strike, and this kid hits it to second base, and boom, it just bounces off of him. It's in air. It goes one of those things that happens. The next kid is going to turn around and have a bunt, and all he has to do is throw the ball to where this kid can bunt it. Next thing I know, he's throwing one to the backstop. The kid steals second. It's a 1-run game. I could have been at this basketball game. The rain's going to come in, and I already know what's going to happen. That kid's going to score. It's going to be a tie game, and I'm going to be even more angry than I was just 5 minutes ago. And I started into this in my mind. I started going through this whole scenario. Are you kidding me? Do these people know my schedule? Do they understand what's happening? These kids are playing a game, and I'm out in center field mad. And and we're still winning. That's the worst part about it. We're just still winning the game. So the kid's up there. All he has to do is throw the ball on the plate. He walks the kid. So now this guy's on first and second and nobody out. And then they start coming out and they're going to have a conversation. I'm like, good, they're pulling him because they should pull him because he can't even throw a strike because he didn't warm up. I'm going through all this stuff and I'm like mad at Nathan and I'm mad at the world and most of all I'm just mad. I'm just plain ticked about whatever it is. Now, I'm going to point something out. I don't ever miss a kid's game if I can. And I stay at the very end. I don't care what the score is. A few years back, Chandler's football team won a game like 63-0, and it was the coldest day ever. And it was so cold that some people actually froze. We had to pick their bodies up and take them out and throw them in their car and turn their cars on for them just to defrost them. I might have made that up. But it was that cold. I mean, it was really, really cold. Okay? 60-point game. And we stayed the whole time. And they're all like, oh, the fans were really clapping and everything. That was our teeth chattering the whole time. We'd all shaking. It was that cold. I stayed to the end. This past week, Deanna and I got to go to the Cavs game, the final Cavs game of the year. And they put in 5 guys, 2 of them I've never even heard of. I wasn't even sure if I was saying their last name right. They played the entire last 3 quarters with basically their G League team. And we stayed till the very end. Now, they were giving free stuff away, so we got free chicken nuggets. So that was cool. But, all right, I know. You guys would all been with it. We stayed to the very end. Only like 15 other people stayed to the end. But we stayed to the very end. So, the guy's on first and second. Nathan turns around, picks the guy off at second. He has him, the second baseman has him, knows it's gone, the center fielder, they're going all crazy, and the umpire goes safe. So now, I'm even madder at the umpire than I am at Nathan. I'm like, how do you miss that call? And I'm like in my own car, having this discussion with me, and I'm angry. Next thing I know, boom, he hits a kid. Then he gets up a hit. Then he walks a kid. And what was a 2-1 game is now 7-2. They had brought out another guy. He gave up a hit, but he shut it down, so it's 7-2. So we're down 5 runs. Well, remember the first 5 innings, it was 1-1? So they just scored 6 runs. And in my mind, it's all because Nathan wasn't prepared and he wasn't ready like he should have been. So you know what I did? I'm leaving. I've never done this. I was in my car, I just started it up, put it in reverse, backed up, and I said, I'm just going to go home. There's no chance that they have to come back. And I started driving home. Well, in the meantime, I'm using my speaker to tell Deanna what's going on. This would happen, this would happen, this would happen, this would happen. And so I've got these big long texts, and I'm sending them out. I have no idea if the words are right. I don't even care. You know, I hope that Siri or whoever's listening isn't cussing, because I'm not cussing, but I am mad. You know, whatever words come across, I apologize. And, you know, we're just going, we're driving. And so I'm in the car for like a good, 25 minutes just stewing, you know. I get to the road behind my house, and Deanna sends me a text, and she's like, and I just put some numbers in the text forward. She's like, Grand Slam? Question mark. Grand Slam? What are you talking about? His ERA was 0. He gave up so many runs that now his ERA is going to be 4. So that's a 4-run thing. She writes back, did he hit a Grand Slam? Like, no, he hit a kid, he walked 3 guys, he threw ball the thing, the kid, he couldn't even throw a strike. What are you talking about? She sends me a text and says, Henry, who's the kid that stayed there, just said his mom, Beth, who happened to be sitting next to Deanna, that they came all the way back in the bottom of the inning, and Nathan got up and hit a grand slam to tie it. Those Dad of the yearbooks that you were worried about losing, you're not losing to me right now. Let's talk about this again here real quick. He hit a grand slam to tie it. His dad, who tapes every single thing there, was not there to be a part of it. And why? Well, it was God's fault, wasn't it? I mean, come on, God, you didn't tell me this was going to happen. I mean, that's the first thing we do. I mean, God, come on, you should know how faithful I am most of the time. You couldn't give me a heads up that John, stay. Maybe he did, but I never stopped long enough to give it to God to check. My spirit had become so negative. I had become so angry. I had literally I had gotten to the point where it didn't matter what else was going on around me. It became about me. And many times, that's when our faith stops. And it's because of our own selfishness, or our own arrogance, or our own pride, or having our own way. And when we do that, that's the warning to the other people. Listen, don't be double-minded. When you get to the mind of yourself, you're going to miss some great moments. And here's the other side to me. Ready? Because this is the other side I heard. You know what? If you would have stayed, that probably would have never happened. Oh. Guess what? It may have never happened. But guess what else? It did. And for one moment, because of my anger, for one moment, because of my self-centeredness, for one moment, because I missed the mark with God, and I didn't turn it to Him, I missed the greatest moment for him in high school right now. Now, I'm going to say the second greatest, because on my birthday last week, he did throw me a no-hitter. But right before he finished throwing the no-hitter, he hit two guys and had to pull him, and his buddy had to come in and finish the no-hitter. So that was really cool. But he told me he was going to do that. So, but these moments, I saw one moment, but I missed this moment. And it wasn't God's fault. And it sure wasn't Nathan's fault. It was mine. And what James is saying here is, don't you miss those moments. Even when people are being cruel, even when people are putting you down, even when people are making fun of you, even when you're feeling angry or worried or doubt, and you have no idea how you're even going to put the next meal on the table, or what's going on with the economy, or what's happening in your finances, or whatever it might be, don't you miss that God can take all this negative and work it to positive, and don't you miss that you are not in this alone. Because if you do, just like me, you may miss some of the greatest moments that God has in this life to offer. Don't miss it. James continues and he says this. He says, the brother in humble circumstances ought to take pride in his high position. That's for all of us as believers. But the one who is rich should take pride in his low position, because he will pass away like a wild flower. For the sun rises with scorching heat and withers the plant. Its blossom falls and its beauty is destroyed. In the same way, the rich man will fade away even while he goes about his business. Verse 12. Blessed is the man who perseveres, once again, that word, perseverance, under trial. So these verses that he's shared with us before, hey, listen, if you're doing really well, be humble. If you're struggling really badly, be humble. If you're struggling really badly and you're being humble and you recognize God in it, that's awesome. And if you're going really, really well, and it's easy not to recognize God in it, but you are recognizing Him, stay that way. Stay humble and keep recognizing Him. Because he says this, blessed is the man who perseveres under trial. Why? And gives us a because. Because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love Him. Not those that did the most, not those that said all the right words, not those that replied with the scripture reference, not those that sang the worship songs. All of those things God calls for us to do. But in every single trial, when you build that endurance and you get to the point where you have persevered and others are watching and you're helping them get to that point of persevering, you will find favor with God. Doesn't mean you'll get what you want, because you may not need it. Doesn't mean that you'll have every bell and whistle and all the great things that we think will make it all better. It means that we will have such a relationship with God that He will find favor in us because we are in tune with Him. And that's what James is telling you. It's a reality check. If you're the person that, man, I'm going to hit the finish line, I'm going to be number one, it's a reality check. Stay humble. If you're the person that it doesn't matter what I do, I'm the guy that always screws up and everybody notices it. Hey, stay humble. It's a reality check. And for many of us that we're kind of stuck in between, we keep running with endurance with the idea of persevering. How do we do that? 3 quick words. 3 quick words. Perseverance. There's going to be a finish line in every single act, in every single person, in every single conversation, in every single step that we take. There is going to be a time of perseverance where it finishes. We've got to stay strong enough to work hard to do that. That's the first part of what James is saying. Second thing is dependence. Don't depend on you, or you're going to get angry. Don't depend on you, or you're going to look back and say, oh, what did I miss? Don't depend on you, because every time you do, you miss who it is that you should depend on, which is depending on God. And in the end, when you persevere through these trials, even if you don't get what you think you exactly want, what you thought would be at the finish line, what you were sure God was doing, you will receive His favor. You have divorce in your past? You're separated now? Just now becoming a parent? You're getting ready to walk down the aisle? You just changed jobs? You're a single parent? Fighting every day? You're a child whose past is like, man, can God handle this? You're sitting here now going, I've really screwed this up so far. Is God even interested? Yeah. James missed it with his own brother, who ended up being the Messiah and the Son of God who rose from the dead. So trust me, we can all miss it at times. The reality check literally says this: we walk, we run, we crawl every day with perseverance in mind, depending on God, and knowing that in the end, we will find His favor. That's awesome. Right where you sit, if you just close your eyes for a second, I want you to just chat with God a little bit. Mike's going to come up, and they're going to play some music here just a little bit, and ask Him, God, the reality check time. God, I've got issues, I've got problems, and I know they work for your benefit. God, I'm running, I feel like I'm on a treadmill, but wait, you're telling me there is a finish line. Or I want to depend on you. God, even though the results may not be what I want or what I expect, that I can see you in those and I will find your favor. Lord, challenge me this week. Challenge me in every relationship I have. Help me to find that silver lining. Help me to see those blessings. Help me to be thankful. Help me in these trials to find joy. God, help me to understand that I can persevere when I depend on you, and that when I do, you find favor in me. Lord, we thank you for this time that we have together. God, as Mike just plays here for a little bit before we begin to sing, Lord, help each one of us to just not only internalize this, but to talk with you about it and to rest in you. We love you. In your name we pray.